Couldn't keep me away from the channel, so don't worry, I'm back. In today's video, we're going to be doing a science experiment, and yes, we have done this before, but the first time did not go so hot, at least to my standards, so we're going to go ahead and try it again, and this time we're going to be doing it more of the scientific approach. Now, what I love in a watercolor is glitter, so I've used a ton of glitter for this, and various versions of mica pigments. So with that, we're moving into our first ingredient, mica powder. Micas are a group of silicate minerals whose outstanding physical characteristic is that individual mica crystals can easily be split into fragile, elastic plates. Mica is most common in igneous and metamorphic rock and is occasionally found as small flakes in sedimentary rock. Micas are also used in a variety of products such as drywalls, paints, and fillers. In paints and cosmetics, is used primarily in pearlescent paints by the automotive industry. The metallic-looking pigments are composed of a substrate of mica coated with another mineral, which is usually titanium dioxide. In the cosmetics industry, its reflective and refractive properties make mica an important ingredient in blushes, eyeliner, eyeshadow, foundation, hair and body glitter, lipstick, lip gloss, mascara, moisturizing lotions, and nail polish. Mica powder can be used in a variety of ways, and I've used two different versions of it in this. The first being that you can buy it individually as just a mica powder. You can buy it on Amazon or whatnot. It can be used within the resin field, which is why I had it when I was doing a lot of resin work. So I just have a lot of bags left over of mica powders. So I used some of the most glittery and chameleon shifting versions that I could find in my collection. The second being eyeshadow pigments. I used quite the many eyeshadow pigments within this and mixed it either with the previous mica powders or a lot of glitter, just for different variables to see the outcomes. The second ingredient we're going to be using is gum arabic. If you guys have ever made your own pigments before, gum arabic is a pretty significant ingredient for it. What is gum arabic though? This is why I went down the rabbit hole to do a lot of research, because I wanted to know what I was using. So gum arabic is a complex mixture of glycoproteins and polysaccharides. Out of these polysaccharides, there are two known polymers, that of arabinose and galactose. Now, another thing I didn't know is that gum arabic is actually used in a wide variety of industries. This includes lithography and printing, which I'm surprised I didn't know because I am big into the printing world. It's also used in paints and glues, which in this case it's going to be used as a binding agent. It's also used in cosmetics and in the food industry as an emulsifier and/or a stabilizer. So whereas the version of gum arabic that we're using today is not for human consumption, it can in fact be broken down for a consumable version of it. We're not going to go that route this time. So like I said, in the event of today's experiment, the gum arabic is going to be used as a binding agent that binds all the pigments together and pretty much is going to allow us to put it into a block form. This also brings us to our third ingredient, the wonderful glycerin. Why would glycerin be such an important factor within this experiment, you ask? Ask nobody. First, what is it? Glycerin is a colorless, odorless, sweet-tasting, thick, viscous liquid that is used in many products including food, beverages, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. It's also known as glycerol or glycerin, which is a type of carbohydrate called a sugar alcohol or polyol. So glycerin is actually sold as a beauty product. The point of it in this experiment, theoretically, it's going to be used as a humectant. So it's going to have moisture control within our pigments. I think that was one of the key factors in the first time that I did this experiment, was not using the glycerin, therefore everything pretty much just dried out. Moisture control. Now with that being said, instead of using glycerin within the cakes, you could also use clove oil. Now clove oil could prevent molding in this situation where I don't know why we would have mold, but with the more moisture buildup there is of something, there is the potential for mold spores to develop. So you could always go with a clove oil or a honey. But in most cases that I found out, by using honey to create watercolors, it is a little thicker than what people want and it's really sticky. And that is the reason for us wearing the lab coat today, is because the mica powders can shoot off the platform that we're going to be working with one little tuff of air, and they kind of just go everywhere. Moving over to the actual experiment, I put down just a tin from a color pencil tray that I had and putting down some of this mica eyeshadow pigment. This is a gorgeous chameleon blue-purple eyeshadow pigment that I just had laying around, and I really wanted to see what would happen by doing this experiment. Now the ratio of the gum arabic should be a 1-to-1 ratio, but you can add a little bit extra if you feel the need to, and I couldn't find anything for the glycerin, but I'm assuming that the amount that I put into this was perfect. This color came out so beautiful in the little trays, and as you can tell, if it dries out a little bit, you can always add a little bit more gum arabic to the mixture itself. And then just keep stirring away with a palette knife. When I was finished mixing these, I went ahead and put them in watercolor pans just to let them dry. You want to fill the trays as much as you can. I actually left a little bubble over top of the trays when you fill them up, which was a fantastic idea because when they dry out a little bit, they will shrink. This is the example of the pure holographic pigment that I wanted to make, consisting of 2 holographic pigments and the rest of the ingredients. I went ahead and stirred it about and noticed, that it looked a little thick. So you test it with the palette knife, you drop a little drop. I went ahead and added more of the gum arabic to it just to make it a little more fluid. And then when I was done with that, just transferred it into the cake pans. Here's an example of the eyeshadow pigments that I used. I purchased this eyeshadow palette strictly for this experiment and just went ahead and depanned a color I thought was appropriate for the glitter that I had laying around. So this is kind of like a champagne-y color, and I knew that I was going to use a gold pigment, so I wanted something that would blend really nicely. And then I just used the other ingredients alongside it, and when I say that this color turned out beautifully, I mean it. Look at the shimmer and the glitter. It is gorgeous. Of course, when I was done mixing it, I went ahead and put it into the little watercolor pans and put them off to the side to dry. So these are the finalized pigments that I went ahead and did about 5 days ago. Even though it has been about 5 days, I cleaned up the little watercolor pans and put them into my actual watercolor tray just to keep them off to the side, and I tried refrigerating them for a little bit. Now, I think that possibly I used a little bit too much glycerin in these, only because when I poke them with my finger, it doesn't transfer to my nail, but they are not completely dry cakes yet. There's still a work in progress. I'm not a professional when it comes to this, but that is why this was a secondary experiment and still worked out better than the first try.